Are you guys ready for more Juke updates?
Wizard, well, we can see you. What? This wasn't a joke?
No, and it's not junk. It's not as bad as I thought it was. We're going to take a look at that here in a minute. But first, I want to advertise that this is finally done. You guys have seen the 164 Alfa Romeo in the background for over a year now. And that's how long it's taken to get parts finally to trickle in from Lithuania, from Latvia, from all over the whole world trying to find parts for this thing. It finally runs and drives, which it didn't when it came in. The AC works, the heater works. Every piece of upholstery has been redone inside. $10,000 to get this back on the road. Is it worth it? I guess for the customer who owns this, it's not so much about the monetary value of the car. It's that he just wanted to experience it back on the road again. And I know the guy's good for the money, so I said, let's do it. I did tell him, though, I probably won't work on any more of these. The actual work is not bad. It's the parts acquisition that's horrible on these, so we probably won't work on those anymore. This one you're going to have to wait for the next video, but it is an XR4Ti Merkur. You guys have seen the Merkur before in here, and that same customer owns this one as well, all the way from Detroit, Michigan. And we're still waiting on spark plug wires on the Viper. They've been ordered for a while now. It took a week for them to get it, and it'll take almost a week for me to get it. A box of spark plug wires. They're listed for sale, but like I've experienced many times, you put the money down, they're not really there, guys. So that's all we're waiting on the Viper. Now let's talk about the Juke. So many of you have already seen the initial video to this 2012 Nissan Juke, or Juke, Joke, whatever you want to call it, a jerk. It kind of was, because it came with a seized up engine. Everyone talks about how ugly it is, and for some it is pretty ugly, but that's fine. I like the styling, and I really enjoy the way it looks. I can't wait to drive it. I finally took a little time myself while everyone else was in here working and doing what they got to do, and I found some free time. I jumped over here and tore the oil pan and the main caps and everything all apart. It's really bad, guys, but not bad enough that it can't be fixed. Let's take a look. So here we are underneath the Nissan Juke. On the ground, you can see below I have the oil pan and everything off, laying off to the side. And it did have a little bit of metal shavings in it, but it only came from the oil pump, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. But let's take a look at these bearings. These are some of the rod bearings. Those were the worst, actually. Actually, the main bearings weren't so bad. But you can see they're all galled up. The aluminum was galled pretty bad, but luckily the crank itself was not damaged very bad at all. Let's go take a look at that. So as you can see, there was some aluminum galling on, but we've got all of it polished off on all of these. We've measured them and they're all within tolerance. Everything cleaned up very, very nicely. It's just like brand new surface on it. And there's a secret on how I did that. Actually, I had Danielson do it, but it was very, very simple. Let me explain it to you. So there's a real old-timer secret to crankshafts having been seized up, and it goes all the way back to the days of tractors. Actually, Crazy D kind of gave me some of this information. You take this right here, muriatic acid. Very potent stuff. So what you do is you get the crankshaft journal surfaces out in the open, and you lightly coat them in the muriatic acid. You don't leave it there for 3 weeks. That could damage the crankshaft. But several hours, you let it do its job. It will literally melt the aluminum, but it will not harm the cast iron or whatever steel or whatever the cranks are made out of. It leaves behind a nice, shiny surface, just the way it was before the whole incident happened where it locked up. The bearing did its job. It galled and got all tore up and saved the crankshaft. I'm so lucky on that. I don't need to buy a new crankshaft or have that one machined. It's all within tolerance. It's all very clean and shiny again. One of the main problems that caused all this was the oil pump locked up from no oil. And here is our oil pump. So as you can see, when it locked up so hard that the timing chain Actually, not a timing chain, it's just a little oil pump chain. It ripped the teeth off of the gear. It locked up that hard, guys. But luckily, it didn't go too much further than that. It did tear up the crank, main, and rod bearings, and it did tear up the oil pump. But that is the extent of the damage with this engine. But I'm really interested to take this apart and see what it looks like on the inside. Let's get this thing opened up. So I've got most of the bolts out. I'll go ahead and take this last one out. Let's see what's inside of here. Wow. That is crazy. Guys, that looks like a staple. Maybe that's what this problem was all along, is it sucked up a staple and locked up the oil pump and ruined the motor. How in the world did a staple get inside the engine? You can see where it scraped so hard with the staple. What in the world? This is new, guys. I didn't even know that that was there. We just opened this up together, and that is really, really odd. Let's take a look at the actual pump itself. It actually spins. It locks up. It's damaged, but you can see where the staple scraped and tore up all inside the surfaces and everything. Let me see if I can pop. Yeah. You can look down inside of there. Let me get my flashlight for you guys. It's really galled up in there. Wow. So obviously the smallest of debris can get into an engine and wreck the whole thing. I'm just amazed, guys. I'm stumped right now. How in the world did a staple out of a stapler get into an engine? I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know how that got there. That obviously locked up the oil pump, stopped the oil flow, and that's what locked up our bottom end. That is a first for me. I have never seen an engine wrecked by a staple. I'm just flabbergasted. But anyways, I do have a lot of new parts for this engine. Now that we know that the crank is savable, it's usable again, nice and smooth within tolerance, we can put all new rod bearings and all new main bearings, which are actually very hard to find for this engine. I looked all over the internet. I went to Parts Geek, I went to Rock Auto, I tried all of my connections and Whirlpack, O'Reilly's, everything you could think of, and they're either discontinued or there are none. I did find some places overseas, because that also led me to find out another interesting fact. The engine and several parts on this car, it's a Japanese Nissan, but the engine is Renault. It's actually not Japanese. It's Renault. So you're not going to find Renault bearings very easily here in America. But I went to the dealership here in Wichita. It took them a week, but they got them for me. Here's our rod bearings, brand new. And here's our main bearings. I do have the thrust bearings on order as well. They weren't too damaged, but I'm just not going to chance it. While this is all apart, I'm going to go back together with all new. And here we have a brand new oil pump from the Nissan dealer. I just could not find these anywhere else, and it cost me $300 for this oil pump. You can see this one is nice and easy. It doesn't have staples in it. Imagine that. An oil pump will work when you don't have staples in it. Nice and smooth. So now that we've solved the bottom end problem, we'll now have oil flow. I have all new timing chain, timing guides, timing tensioner, which is a common problem on these engines. I'm not going to reuse the old ones, even though they were still in decent shape. Even the oil pump chain that had stripped the teeth off of the oil pump was still usable. I'm just amazed by that as well, but obviously I'm not going to reuse them. We'll get new valve cover gaskets, new spark plugs, new gaskets all the way around, new seals, and go back together with everything. Like I mentioned in the previous video, And I checked even further while I had all this apart. The camshafts are happy. I took apart some of the cam journals and looked and kind of peeked in there, and they're nice and shiny and clean. Also, the turbo, like I said, spins free. It's not sloppy, but it's nice and tight, but it spins free, which is such a wonderful thing. I'm so happy to find that out. There's actually oil, like nice clean oil, all inside the top end and even on the timing chain. It just happened to be the bottom end is where the carnage happened. So we'll do another video as soon as I get all this back together, and I'll show you guys how the rotating assembly is nice and clean and smooth when we get it all back together. We'll get the timing chain on, do all that, and then there'll be a video after that one showing it running and driving.
You mean you running and driving it?
You're not going to drive it?
No.
I think you would look really good in this one.
Maybe so, dear, but it's your special little, Juke.
It's a frog.
Great. So then you've got the engine worked out. What are you going to do about the CVT there, wizard?
I actually checked the fluid on it. It's full and very clean. And I think it was replaced. It has some Nissan numbers and things that lead me to believe that it did fail at some point and has been replaced. So it's probably a good unit. Once I get everything running and driving, I will service it, whether it needs it or not, and then it will receive an annual service, whether it needs it or not. That's how you keep the CVTs alive. You don't wait till it needs an oil service, or a fluid service, I should say. You just do it every year, whether it needs it or not. If you're waiting until the thing starts slipping or chattering or making weird noises to do the fluid service, you've waited too late anyways. You shouldn't wait that long on a CVT, especially these Jatco Nissan CVT transmissions. You don't wait that long. So I bought it for $4 grand, and then I have just a handful of parts and things, which is probably going to end up being another $700, $800 of parts. And it'll be a running, driving car again. I still have to fix the dent though, and that I'm probably going to take to ICS Collision. I actually found a door on eBay. It's the correct QX1 pearl white color for $350. And it said to contact them for freight costs. I said, okay, well, $350, I can do that. Then I'll have my dent fixed. So I emailed them and said, what's the freight going to be? They said, so the door will be $350, the freight will be $450. I was like, that's more than the whole door. They said, yeah, we'll take it or leave it. I said, I'll leave it. You can keep it. I'm pretty sure the guys at ICS can probably take care of that for that much or less. So that's probably the route I'm going to take for the dent. Unless I get lucky and find a wrecked one here in the local area that I can go get it myself and maybe even work out a better deal. We'll just have to see how that plays out. But I'm very happy that the engine is not toast, it's not destroyed. It's going to go back together and it's going to be a happy little Renault Juke Frog engine. Aren't you happy, Mrs. Wizard?
If you guys could just see the expression on my face right now.
I apologize for the wind today, guys. It is so windy, as usual in this time of year in Kansas. It's like living on Mars with the windstorms. You guys have seen that movie, The Martian, and the windstorms keep coming through? That's Kansas. That's what it's like to live in Kansas. So this video is a little shorter, but I wanted to give you guys an update before we just start slapping it back together. Actually let you see the carnage and let you see what's going on with the Juke. And it's good news. If you're curious what kind of tools, which I have scattered all over the lift here, that we use to fix this Juke, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut and we really appreciate it. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because there are a lot of cool cars and a lot of cool videos coming yet to come. Thanks for watching.